Okay, so I want to do a tutorial that is not in the um, standard documentation, briefly, just to talk about a couple of things that I think are useful when you're first getting started. These are things to essentially help you navigate the environment and learn new things. The first thing is say you're looking around, you download a patch and it has some objects that you're not familiar with. The way you get information about these objects so that you know what you can do with them is to drag your mouse over to the left side of the object and click on this little circle here. And then you get this menu box that comes up. And from there, you would choose either reference or help. I usually choose reference because you can get to the help file from reference as well. And what this does is it tells you what the object does, gives you a description of that, what comes out of the object, the output, the arguments that can go into the object, which you would type if you want a fixed argument, so an argument that doesn't change. For instance, 440 hertz as the frequency of this sine wave, which is what cycle object is, then you would type it right into the object itself. Alternatively, you can also create a number box and just hit I to create an integer box. But you can then change the frequency of the sine wave dynamically. If you look at the cycle help patcher, you'll see that there is a already set up patch that you can use to experiment and to explore the cycle object. So that's to find more information about an object that you already have in a patch. Just make sure you're in edit mode and then hover over the left side, click, and then go to reference. And then you'll have all sorts of information. And don't worry if you don't understand all of the information right away. It will become more clear the more time you spend with the program. Now, that's great if you're looking at a patch that you already have that somebody else built and you're trying to sort of decode it and figure out what it does. What if you are trying to build your own patch? One of the biggest challenges when you're first starting out with any language, whether it's a programming language or a spoken language, is vocabulary. You don't know what things are called. So, for instance, I thought it was very there's some things in Max that I think are not necessarily intuitively named. So how can you find out what things are named as you're trying to build them? Well, there's a couple of different ways. The best way I would say to start is just to go through the tutorials, which you find from documentation, and then you click on tutorials, and then Max tutorials, and then you would start with the basics, which is what we're going through. And that way you'll sort of build up your vocabulary, your object vocabulary naturally. Another way to approach this is if there's a particular object that you know you want, you can use Cycling74's object thesaurus and search it for various objects, and you can see different, if you're looking for a sine wave, then you will see that cycle comes up. So these are, you can just search for what you're looking for. Another very useful tool is the object database, which you can search and it will give you lots of different options for objects that are both native, that are built by Cycling74, and also external objects built by the Max community at large. So that's what I just wanted to share with you, a little bit about getting around, finding help for an object that you've come across, understanding what arguments are, and using the thesaurus and the database to find objects for your patches. And the final thing that I showed is where to find the tutorials, which are right under documentation and tutorials.